You have a metal arm? And you've got balls of steel, kid. I think that to this day, Captain America the Winter Soldier is still the best MCU movie of all time, if not the best superhero movie of all time. Maybe right next to Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, especially the first one, with Green Goblin as the main antagonist. I've always wished for a proper Sebastian Stan Winter Soldier figure for a very long time now, especially one that is made by MAFEX. MAFEX has really made a name for themselves in the action figure community, and MAFEX has truly become one of the top dogs when it comes to 1/12 scale, super detailed, super articulated action figures that are as close as possible to the source. And when this guy was officially announced sometime last year, I couldn't pre-order him faster than I did. Fast forward to today, I'm really stoked that he's finally here. One of the things I really appreciate about MAFEX is that they never went away with the window boxes. So this is perfect for those collectors that just want to keep their figures in the box and display them as it is. But even if you're someone like me who collects action figures with the intent to actually take them out of the box and play with them, this is still perfect, especially if you have very limited space to display your figures and you have to put the figures back in their boxes. And when the day comes, you finally take one of the figures out of the bins, being able to see the thing and the rest of the stuff that he comes with through that window on the box just renews your love and interest for the figure. I'm sure that a lot of you can relate, especially if it's something as cool as Sebastian Stan's The Winter Soldier. Taking a closer look at the box, through the window we see Winter Soldier and the accessories that he comes with. Down here, title of the movie, Captain America the Winter Soldier, Marvel Studios, Avengers logo, Winter Soldier action figure, MAFEX, Medicom toy, and a promo shot of the toy. Here on the other side, see more of the same stuff. The Infinity Saga, MAFEX 203 Winter Soldier action figure, goggles, mask, metal arm, nice long hair, shoulder length. Here on the other side is Winter Soldier in a vanilla pose. Winter Soldier, MAFEX 203. Here on the back it goes full circle with more promo shots, front and rear profile, cool poses, you name it. Down here is just a lot of fine print and warning, joking hazard, ages 15 and up. Enough about the box, and let's take him out of his coffin. Looking at the accessories, he comes with an ample amount of hands, and you can never go wrong with a lot of extra hands, especially for a character like the Winter Soldier who does a lot of hand-to-hand combat. Before we move on to the rest of the accessories, it's important that we talk about the elephant in the room, and that is that this guy doesn't come with guns. And it's weird that they're still observing this gun ban on action figures. For some reason, a lot of people who are screwed in the head are not banned from bearing arms, so And we've got some straps that you can plug onto the back of the shield depending on the configuration. This one is for when you want to equip the shield on his arm, so essentially you put this around his arm and then plug this at the back, just like so. And this one is for when he's not equipped with the shield and you just want something to fill the gap right there. Then we've got two identical daggers with gunmetal gray applied on the blades and black handles, and then the pommels do have the same gunmetal gray on the blades, so that's pretty neat. According to my research, this unique knife with a somewhat galvanized black collar applied to it is a Gerber MK2 combat knife. This was the knife that Winter Soldier used during that highway fight scene, one of the most epic fight choreographies of all time. And then we have the shield with a heavy amount of wash applied to it to create a weathering effect. If I'm not mistaken, in the movie, there was a scene where they were in the Hydra facility and then it crumbled and he used the shield to protect Natasha from all the rubble. Or was it because this took a hit from a grenade launcher? I can't exactly remember. Maybe you guys can leave the correct information below. And then it comes with two extra head sculpts. One doesn't have the goggles on, just the face mask. The other, obviously, is fully decked out with the mask and the goggles. I gotta say, they really nailed the likeness of Sebastian Stan's Winter Soldier here. The way the head is sculpted, the way the hair drapes over his cheeks, those serious blue eyes underneath the furrowed brows, and the micro details such as those eyelashes, those digitally printed eyelashes. Tiny details that bring this face to life. And the mask comes with two shades of gray, one darker, one lighter, and the front piece. And then the front piece has a glossy black with some air intake vents, I guess. It comes with a filter, nonetheless, for him to breathe through. The hair has this brownish gray color, nice layers, and length, I guess, is accurate too. This other head is, of course, identical to the other heads, except that this is fully decked out with the mask and the goggles. I'm not sure the camera can pick it up, but in person there is a very nice translucency applied, ever so slightly, just enough for you to see that there are eyes underneath there. That's pretty cool. Turning our attention to the details of this figure. And I gotta say, they really came close in terms of the likeness, but for some reason, while he does look like Sebastian Stan, he doesn't look as handsome as he did in the movie. I don't know, something's off with it. Otherwise, it's a pretty nice Winter Soldier head profile. In the movie, this is leather, while the trousers are some type of rough yet flexible fabric. So it makes sense that this is a little more glossy. I can really appreciate the high level of detail work applied here. I mean, look at how those straps differentiate themselves from the rest of the figure. Those pieces alone are loaded with a lot of sculpt work, and not only that, there's some subtle paintwork applied in those tiny details. I mean, look at those circular pieces sculpted into these parts. It can be found on the belt, in the straps, and on the back. If you look closely, they are painted with some kind of silver inside those circles in every piece. So those micro details bring this figure to life, aside from the sculpt work and the texturing where it is necessary. Look at how those bootstraps came out. The high level of detail applied on the boots alone. They even painted the small piece with the silver. That's pretty cool. Those ribbed knee pads look great. The pants do have a high level of sculpt work done on them. Even the crotch. Here at the back there is a very nice silver line work, left and right, very cleanly done. Even the dagger sheaths have their own unique sculpted details applied on them. And then I guess this one that's hanging low is for the Gerber MK2 combat knife. They've got two capsules here, left and right, painted with gold down there and silver at the top. There's also a dark gray wash applied on the buckles, and we can also find the silver line work below the collar. Even the pouches have very distinctive features. Last but not the least, and arguably the most important feature of this figure, of this character, would be the metal arm. And man, this is just next level. The amount of metallic silver paint they applied here and how cleanly they did it is just stellar. This just elevates the figure. And on top of that, excellent silver metallic coat. There are a lot of mechanical details, some sculpted lines that they threw in, a lot of wash to give this arm the dimensions it needs. And then the star has its own sculpted line work, which they filled with that metallic red as precisely as they did the silver on the rest of the arm. Then all the gloved hands do come with their fair share of sculpted and painted details. Of course, the fingers have the same silver as the rest of the arms. But I do have one gripe in terms of the aesthetics of this figure, and it has something to do with the proportions. While the proportions are there, it looks good overall. He just doesn't look as muscular as he did in the movie. Considering that he is wearing all this tactical gear, especially in the upper body, if you stripped away his clothes, just imagine how thin he actually is underneath. I guess the arms could have been a bit more beefed up, because the way that he appeared in the movie, he has this stronger V-shaped upper body, broad shoulders that tapers significantly as it goes down to the waist. So because he is a little slimmed down, in that sense he is kind of stylized, almost like he's given anime proportions, but that's not something that can't look past. Because I'm sure that if I pose him around, the majority of that proportional issue would be sorted out. By the way, if you pay close attention, the color of his suit is a super dark rustic brown, which is exactly the way it is in the movie. So that is another fine detail they managed to capture, and another strong point in their favor. Okay, now let's review his articulation points and see what he can do. Starting off with the head. Of course, sadly, because of the hair, he can't really look up. That's as far as he goes looking up. If you force it, poof, it just pops off. And at first I thought, hey, they kind of took a step back, because now they didn't include a lower neck joint, but turns out there is. If you look closely, they cut it around the collar, and because it's so flush, it almost looks seamless, but it does function the way it should, just like so. And with the help of that, our Winter Soldier can look down generously, super expressively. You can also do the side tilt, combining that with his capacity to look down. Now he looks like he means business. Pretty dope. Amazing. And speaking of amazing, I do have the amazing Yamaguchi Winter Soldier figure coming soon, maybe sometime next month or August. Yes, as soon as I get my grabby hands on that figure, I will definitely review the heck out of it. Okay, now let's move on to his shoulders. His arm can rotate 360 just like so. Same goes for the metal arm, so that's pretty good. The arms can go out to the side that far. Perfect T-pose, and it looks organic, nothing weird about it, so I do love it. We also have the butterfly setup here on the shoulders that affords him a bit more range. It's great. Going back kind of helps broaden his shoulders a bit more, so that's good. I like it, but still not enough to make him look as menacing as he does in the movie. I mean, considering he's wearing all that tactical gear, you'd expect that he's gonna be a bit thicker on the upper body, at least. I have no problems really on the lower extremities, just the upper body, especially in the upper torso region and the shoulders, and his biceps and his arms. Otherwise, it looks good. Then we have a bicep swivel, functions well and looks good. Also, we've got the double jointed elbows. They've always done well with their elbow joints, but I just think that this is next level. There almost isn't any gap, even if you exhaust the range of that joint. Same goes for the metal arm. Why does it seem like this can bend farther than the normal arm? Or maybe that's just the illusion made by, the mechanical details here. It's got more going on than the normal arm, but either way, it functioned well, and I'm happy about it. Oh, damn. His hand popped off. So for the wrists, you've got these hinge joints, rounded hinge joints, that allows you to move the hands any way you want, no problem. Vertically, horizontally, you got it. Both hands. Nice. Moving on to the torso, let's first use the upper joint, and you can actually bend forward a good amount. Decent range. Bending forward, bending back. Pretty much the same. There's some gapping there, but you can easily hide it by pushing the upper part down, just like that. Okay, then we have the hip joint, and combining that with the upper torso joint, you can go this far, bending forward, going back, even better. Then you've got some side to side movement on the upper joint. Also, you can also move it around diagonally in a circular motion, whatever you want. Same goes for the lower joint or the waist joint. Combining those articulation points, you can do these. Combining those articulation points, you can do this and that, and that. Rounding motion all the way. Pretty sick. As per usual, you got the drop down hinges, but this time it's not too extreme, I guess. It almost doesn't engage. I know it's there. The drop down, very minimal. I guess that's a good thing. At least to me that is, because the figure doesn't end up looking weird when you pull it down. That said, his legs can go out that far. It's still full on splits, and the joints are not loose, they're also not very stiff, just right in the middle, the sweet spot. Perfect. You can go forward that far, kicking back barely any because the thigh just bumps into this back piece. You've got some double jointed knees. Not the best double jointed knees in terms of functionality, but I'd say that's a good enough range going back. And the knee pads do help hide the weirdness, maybe, of the double jointed setup here, or at least it makes it complete, because that is part of his design anyway. What am I talking about? This is what happens when you operate with barely any sleep. As per usual, we don't get a boot cut, but that's not a problem because we do have these thigh swivels for days. Nice. Can look, you can go inward generously. And then for the ankles, not really much. Kicking forward, going back, better than it does. Kick forward. Then we've got a rocker, a proper ankle rocker, so no problem there. Then we've got some super functional toe joints. Cool beans. For some size comparisons, here we have two of my favorite comic book figures, Scarlet Spidey and X-Force Deadpool. And then we've got Bring Art's Cloud, which I will be reviewing soon, so stay tuned. Then we've got some Jada Toys, Metal Figs, Deadpool, and Spider-Man. I'm Spider-Man. Then we've got some McFarlane Batmans, Red Death, and the Asbats. McFarlane Toys, Mega Fig, Killer Croc. Jada Ryu and Fei Long. My one and only Game Dimensions Jin Tekken figure. Yellow Park Transformers. For his height, he is about 15.6 centimeters tall, or 6 1/3 inches. I just want to point out that for Deadpool, his pouches are individual pieces. As for Winter Soldier, everything is molded together in that belt. Depending on how you look at it, this to me is an upgrade, given that MAFEX is, to this day, still known for some quality control issues. And by experience, one of the quality control issues from time to time would be those glued pieces popping off because they just didn't do a very good job gluing them together, which is exactly what I experienced here on Deadpool. I've got pretty warm hands, so when I play with my figures, I guess it does affect the adhesives, but still that was kind of off-putting because, you know, the first few miles I had with this figure, one of the pouches just popped off. Fortunately, there wasn't any broken peg, just, you know, super glued the pouch that got taken off and no problem. But I've also had the same issue with the Dark Knight Returns Batman, the blue version. So yeah, the way I see it, this is an upgrade because they did a very good job sculpting everything together. That's pretty neat. I think the only piece here that's not exactly molded together with the belt would be these sheaths. So yeah, these sheaths are molded together, but they are separate from the belt, so they are pegged right in the middle. This figure is a bang for your buck, but I'm not totally blown away because they kind of missed the mark in a very pivotal aspect of this figure, and that has something to do with the proportions. They should have made the serratus section a bit more pronounced, and the shoulders could have been a bit more beefed up, a bit more broadened, to give him the proper V shape that made him look super formidable in the movie. You have to consider that Sebastian Stan trained for 6 months prior to filming the movie, after finding out that he was going to be shown topless in one or a few of the scenes in it. 6 months of rigorous training under strict Hollywood standards for superhero films. He wasn't grass-fed, he was loaded with a lot of protein and was doing all the heavy lifting under the strict supervision of a professional Hollywood trainer. And while it sucks that they didn't include guns due to political reasons, I still very much appreciate that they gave us gun holding hands, trigger finger hands. Because all we got to do now is harbor some 1/12 scale guns from other figures that we have in our collections. All that being said, this figure is really solid. It is chock full of painted and sculpted details. No stone was left unturned to make this figure as screen accurate as possible. Despite my gripe about the proportional issue in the torso, this is without a shadow of a doubt the definitive 1/12 scale Winter Soldier Sebastian Stan Bucky Barnes action figure. Seriously, I'm not even mad about the exclusion of guns, because that was to be expected. And at this point, all we can really ask for from these action figure companies is to give us at least some trigger finger hands, and MAFEX managed to deliver. They gave us everything we could have asked for, with consideration to all of the restrictions placed upon these action figures. By the way, Steve Rogers just arrived a couple hours ago, so I'll be reviewing this guy soon. They might even be doing a stop motion between these two guys throwing hands at each other. Whoever worked on this figure, the designers, the sculptors, because I don't know really. The team behind this really gave it their all. Their heart, sweat, blood, and soul can be felt through the minute details of this piece of art. It's as if they were waiting for a very long time for the company to finally greenlight this project. They just gave it their all, maximum effort. And as a result, collectors such as myself and big fans of Winter Soldier are happy. I feel like I got my money's worth, and for sure once you have him in hand, once you get your own copy, you'd be able to say the same. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.